much.
Of course, I mean it's just about the amount of calories you take in a day and the amount of calories you lose.
That's partly true, but it also is very important in terms of what calories you consume. So, for example, a donut may have the same calories as a very healthy, say, English breakfast. But the donut will be broken down and the sugars will be absorbed, and you'll put on weight more than if you'd eaten the same calories in a. Yes, that is true.
I need to know a lot more about the health side of this issue.
Yes.
I focus primarily on the ethical stance.
I know
a lot about
it's not really a debate. It's more of a friendly chat, really. A friendly chat.
I think it's morally wrong to consume egg. In my example, for example, I had a lovely area. I think there's 2 chickens at a time. Most of my garden to live in, they had the best food I could give them, and treats. I used to farm mealworms to give them as well. Is that all right?
I would say, what's the reason you would be having the chicken in the first place?
To eat the egg. So
you're basically treating the animal as an object that can provide for you, rather than actually just looking.
But you're making a moral. You're making a moral argument.
Yeah.
Which, as I said to you, is a subjective argument, and that is why I'm telling you that for it to be objective, it needs to come from an objective source.
But it doesn't have to be objective, though.
Because
morality is subjective is a very easy thing to say when we're not the victims.
Yes.
Anyone can say that.
Can I say something too? What makes it alright for a lion to eat his prey, but for us to not eat meat?
Okay, I would say, what's the reason the lion eats their prey? To survive, yeah, to survive. The lion has no other choice, yeah. So we know we can live off other alternatives. We know that taking the life of someone is wrong. And so if we have the alternatives to eat something that doesn't take the life.
Okay, so if a lion, which is part of nature, it doesn't feel anything wrong with eating something else part of nature. Why is it wrong for us to sustain ourselves from nature? It's, with a cycle, right? Cycle of nature.
Yeah.
Energy from the sun goes to the plant, plant goes to the rabbit, rabbit gets eaten by the fox gets eaten by this. So why is it wrong for us to join the chain?
I would say, why are we recycling the nutrients from plants for an animal's body? We can get everything we need from the plant.
But that's my point.
Why are we eating the animal?
But Tim,
we just go directly to source.
Look at a plant and look at its nutrients and look at a piece of meat. Which has more protein? No plant has more protein than meat, right?
No, but I mean, every single plant has protein. I think the only food source that doesn't have protein
What's the best food source for us? It's meat, right?
No. Our bodies are biologically designed to be eating plants. Okay,
look at your team. Why do you have...
No, brother, 1 second.
What do you think you can do with those teeth,
you're jumping a little bit too much. Look, the reality is that, and this is why I talk about first principles.
Yeah.
Because before we can establish a reality, we have to make sure that those first principles are correct. And if you feel that the animal is somehow equal to a human being, or that it's a life and we are a life,
their life is,
if their life is as precious as our life, then clearly your conclusion will always be that it's cruel, it's wrong, and it's bad. And that's why I'm saying to you is that first principle needs to be first analysed, and that has to be some form of an absolute, I believe, otherwise everything becomes subjective. So 50 years ago, Tim, you may not have had a problem with meat at all.
I wouldn't have existed.
I'm talking about if you had existed. You understand my point? 100 years ago, you would have cared even less.
Yeah.
So it would have been the same you and the same brain, and yet your conclusions in relating to these things would have been very different.
It depends where I was getting my information from and who I was talking to.
But that's what I'm trying to say to you. So that becomes subjective then, right? So you become a slave to nature and nurture. And the nurture would have perhaps influenced quite dramatically how you would have felt about these things, right? So for us as Muslims, what we do is that our morality, whether it's meat consumption, whether it's other laws considering the environment or food or inheritance or anything else for that matter. You know, what it means to be alive and to live, right? That comes from a source which we believe, of course, and it's our belief, from an absolute source, which is God, which is the creator. So that's why I say to you, Tim, that what is important is to first really think about and contemplate, is there a creator? And if there is a creator, what does my creator say about these things? What does my creator say about eating an egg or eating a chicken, or how I should eat that chicken, or how I should eat that egg? You understand my point? Otherwise, it purely becomes a subjective reasoning based upon what people are telling you, the information that you've seen. Some of it might be accurate, some of it might not be, some of it might be exaggerated, some of it might not be. You understand my point?
I understand your point.
And so that's what I would ask you to do, Tim, is that go back to analysing this first principle and first concept. Is there a God? Is there a creator? If there is, what does my creator want me to do? How does my creator analyse these issues? Because as a fallible human being, both of us, we can clearly make many mistakes.
Yeah.
You understand my point?
I like to think we're all a product of our environment, we're a product of our social conditioning.
Yes.
We're taught these things.
Of course.
Have you ever heard of a concept called speciesism before?
I've heard of a concept called species, yeah.
Yeah, so the idea that some lives matter
Yes,
more. So
yes.
we regard ourselves as so important
Yes.
that we can decide what we do to
Yes.
those species.
Yes.
That's taught to us.
Yes.
We're not born to
Yes.
be speciesists.
Yes.
Like racism, sexism.
Yes.
It's something that's
But you see,
taught
for us, that's taught to us by the creator.
Well, I mean,
So, for example, Allah has
Allah
elevated some of His creation above others. Allah has elevated some human beings above other human beings.
Yeah.
You understand my point?
Yeah.
So, for example, for us, the prophets, the messengers that were sent down, were elevated above all other human beings. So, the way that I would be allowed to speak to the Prophet of God, peace be upon him, would be very different from how maybe I'd be allowed to speak to this brother or to you.
Yeah.
And similarly, even within a secular society, we recognize this hierarchy.
Yeah.
So, for example, you wouldn't talk to the Queen the way you talk to me.
I would.
Well, most people wouldn't.
No, because I don't believe in royalty. Royalty's absurd.
I understand. I agree.
They're more important.
I agree with
just
you.
because of the family.
I agree with you. No, but I agree with you. I agree with you. But you know, for example, you go to a court of law.
Yeah,
And there's a judge there. There's authority. There's authority. And you would have respect for the authority.
Yeah.
Why? Because, especially in that situation, that authority could potentially cause you a lot of problems if you don't show respect, right? And so similarly for Allah, we show respect and reverence to Allah because
I respect everyone.
No, I understand. But and the reason for that is because of who Allah is. So the one that creates everything, that sustains everything, that explains everything, we have a certain reverence and a certain love, and we are submitting ourselves to the will of the Creator. And so if the Creator says to us, there are certain things that I have created for your consumption, and certain things I have created for you to ride, and certain things to plough the fields. You understand?
That was created at a time, like we've moved upon that now, haven't we? Like we've evolved, and I like to think we're constantly evolving. At the time, maybe we needed to use animals to do all those things, like for industries to increase.
From which point of view, is it like you point out from the killing is bad?
Yes.
Or you want to be merciful on animals? There's 2 points. Which one?
Myself.
Like bad and good, there is 2 things. To know what is bad, what is good.
I think it's a bit of both. If
both sides.
So what he's asking is that is your opinion that it's somehow inherently bad, or that you shouldn't do it? Is it morally bad, for example?
I'd say it was, there's a moral issue when you're taking the life of someone who has a preference to live when you don't need to do that. It's just a very simple. I think people actually at times overcomplicating the vegan message.
So can you see there's in the nature already there, like even if we take away human, there's already going the system which is even if we not eat, still there will be eat for with others. And yeah, and about the good and bad, they build up the system in the earth. Even if you like, for example, you have a planet just empty and give it to run the system, you have to put like a similar system to kill. Otherwise, will be one population will be grow up. Everyone will want my population.
Okay,
The thing is, it's not necessary.
but brothers, one at a time. Tim, one other thing I would actually suggest to you is this. Do you have kids yourself?
No.
Okay. If you did have kids, okay, if you did have children, and if somebody killed your son, he's 5 years old, and they've killed your son, and you have a dog that's 5 years old, or a cat that's 5 years old, or a goldfish that's 5 years old, and somebody comes and kills that goldfish, would you feel the same pain and the same suffering as your child?
No, of course not.
No. And so even for you, there's a reality of hierarchy.
Yeah, but that's still not a justification to be taking their lives.
But I agree with you. But your point was that there is somehow not this hierarchy, that there's this equality between all of creation.
I'm saying like we should regard life.
No, I agree. But within the concept of Islam, that concept already exists.
Yeah.
So how the animal should be reared, how it should be killed, how much you should consume. These things are already explained in detail.
So now it's completely unnecessary. It's completely and utterly unnecessary to be killing animals in 2018.
But
we know we can get everything we need from the plant kingdom, so that renders eating animals obsolete. It just makes it. We're doing. Hold on. We're just doing it for taste, pleasure. Now the three main reasons we kill animals is taste, habit, and convenience.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And how can we morally justify that because of that?
No. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Still there.
Well. To be fair, brother, what you could do is not rear so many sheep and so many cows, so you would actually limit the population. That's not really an argument. But what I'm trying to say to you is that that moral judgment of the fact that we don't need to eat it, and therefore it is wrong, inherently wrong. The reason why I'm saying that argument is purely subjective. And the reason why I think it's wrong is because, for me personally, is because the Creator has created certain things for a purpose for human beings. And eggs and milk and these things are a mercy to us from God as a food source. But that doesn't. No, look, this is the caveat. And this is the amazing thing about Islam. That just because Allah has made something halal does not mean that you should do it.
Of course, yeah, we're the ones playing God's
right,
now.
no.
We're the ones.
So let me just explain what I mean by that. So, for example, if you prove scientifically that processed meats in sausages, for example, cause bowel cancer and increase the risk of cancer because of how we're rearing them, what we're feeding them, how we're processing them. You understand my point?
Yeah.
Then Islamically it would be incumbent upon you not to eat those sort of foul meats.
Yeah.
You understand my point?
Yeah.
But Islam is about moderation. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, do not take your religion to extremes. And life is like that. I think one extreme is no fish, no meat, no nothing, and saying that it's somehow inherently cruel and bad to have any, in any circumstance. And I think the other extreme is to have it all the time like we're having it now.
Well, can I just put it to you? So my position is not killing animals, basically.
Yes.
So what do you think sounds more extreme? Stabbing an animal in the throat for no reason, or not stabbing the animal in the throat? What's more extreme? What's the more extreme position?
But you see, Tim, even your terms that you've just used there.
That's what we do. We stab animals in the throat.
You don't actually.
All right, we slash
you slash the animal's throat. You cut the animal's throat, right? And as a brother was explaining to you that he rears his own chickens, right? And he was saying literally they're playful, and the knife literally is just one swipe, and the animal is unconscious.
Yeah, but you're still taking the life.
I understand that,
for no reason.
No. Well, you are. The reason is that you're going to consume that animal.
But you have options. You have other alternatives.
No, but you're saying inherently that you're saying that inherently as an absolute, that even under that situation, that would be cruel. And my argument to you, with respect, Tim, is that though I accept a lot of what you say about slaughterhouses, about how we consume meat today, I totally accept that. And that's why I
Well, that's why I asked, what's an acceptable amount? Because say I've used this analogy a couple of times, and a few people have stormed off when I've used it.
Yes.
But say hypothetically, you have a man that beats his wife 7 days a week.
Yes.
And he goes to you, all right, I just reduce it. I just do it 2 days,
2 days a week. Yes.
Were you happy with that?
Of course
Would you
not.
promote for 0
course
days
not.
of the week?
Of course not.
So when it comes to a moral issue,
Yes.
we don't talk about say bigger cages and
Yes.
reducing it to a certain,
Yes.
like limiting it.
Yes.
We're talking about abolishing it.
Yes, but Tim, you see the problem there is that you've made a comparison between no,
analogy.
yeah, it's an analogy, but the problem with analogy,
Same thing.
no, but the problem with analogies is that they're not a glove fit, right? They may explain something, or actually they might not. They might seem reasonable. On the face of it, that might seem quite reasonable, yeah? But I think inherently, the majority of human beings on this planet would probably agree that it's wrong to beat your wife.
Yeah.
But you will not find the majority of human beings on the planet who would say that it is inherently, as an absolute, wrong to kill an animal and eat that animal.
When it's for no reason, though.
Well,
What's the reason you eat animals?
well, I don't. I haven't for quite a few months now because of the
You
reasons
said
that.
you eat fish.
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do.
So what's
yes.
the reason you eat fish?
I eat it for nutritional benefit.
Yeah.
Because I like the taste.
So would you say your taste buds are more important than the life of someone else?
No, I wouldn't say that. But what I would say is this, though. What I would say is this. What I would say is that, again, for me as a Muslim, my moral code and standard doesn't come from the whims of society. Because society.
I don't know, nor is mine,
because as I said to you, if you were born 100 years ago, same brain, same Tim,
Yeah.
but you may have been quite happy eating meat. You might say that, but you see, look, has vegetarianism and veganism dramatically grown in the last, say, 50 years?
Social media with education, when
Right.
people are educated to the fact
Right.
that we know it's completely
Right.
unnecessary to eat animals,
Yes.
people don't want to do that.
So-
when slicing an
Right.
animal's throat
Yes.
for absolutely no reason
Yes.
whatsoever,
Yes.
just because we like the way
Yes.
they taste, how can we morally justify
So
doing
therefore,
that? We
people.
can't.
So therefore, it's not an absolute, and that education, those videos, that all the other stuff that people have been shown, has influenced their morality.
Well, I mean, it's just waking ourselves up to the realities of those industries. Those industries only exist because we pay for them to
No,
exist.
I understand
As
that.
the consumer, we are the ones that dictate if they exist or not.
Yeah.
As the consumer, we have all the power. Once we stop giving them money, once we stop doing that, once we stop telling them, to kill animals because we like the way they taste, they go away, they change industries. Supply will always follow demand.
Yes.
And as the individual, it's our responsibility to
Yes.
take, we have to take
Look, I
responsibility for those individual actions.
I agree with some of what you said, but that wasn't my point. My point was that we can clearly demonstrate and see how this was not intrinsic morality understood by those individuals. It was something that actually, over the decades, has been influenced by an external drive.